So this is your chapter that is given in your book, and we have already discussed and we have already completed this chapter through the help of PPT, that is sources of finance. Today we'll be going through the look of this, that whatever is the material available in Sharma publication. Okay, so this PDF has been generated from Sharma publication. So let's have a look on this, that how, what is the material available to you. So sources of finance, long term and short term. According to time period, it is given, that is, so there are different various sources of finance which have been classified, and what we have done, we have discussed in our previous class and in our previous lecture regarding traditional and modern ways. Now, this in this Sharma publication, he has classified his various sources of finance on the basis of time period. Okay, so long term, medium term, short term examples have been given, and long term sources. Thing is same, that in long term finances also the same thing we have discussed, equity preference retained. In medium term preference, debenture, bonds, public deposits for 3 years of addition, like 3 to 5 years comes under medium term sources. Okay. Then short term sources. It is already discussed in my last previous video. So you can go through it. Okay. Then according to ownership, it is given. This is according to ownership. After that, ownership में भी यही रहेगा, share capital, retained earning, reserves and surpluses and borrowed capital. Ownership के accordingly जो self owned capital और borrowed capital, ठीक है, ये owned capital है and this is borrowed capital. And according to the sources of finance, internal and external sources. So the same points are same, but the segregation is somehow different. Just have a look on this, that this is the chart that has been explained in your Sharma publications, like various sources of long-term finance and sources of short-term financing, in which owned capital, when we are talking, that means we are talking about equity shares and preference share. And I have explained this thing, that equity share means fresh issues or right issues, or preference share में all type of preference shares, redeemable, irredeemable, cumulative, non-cumulative, convertible, non-convertible, participating, non-participating, all kinds of preference shares will be the part of owned capital. और borrowed capital में क्या रहेगा, ये देखो borrowed capital है. borrowed capital में see, long term में owned and borrowed capital. Borrowed capital में just see that what we have borrowed from others, ठीक है, from the outside, from the externals, that is debentures. इसमें भी various types of debentures like redeemable, irredeemable, convertible, bearer, registered, mortgage, naked, and then financial institution. When we are taking long-term loans from financial institutions for my company, वो क्या हो गया, national, international. These are different financial institutions which will be helping you out for your company, that for the sources for the of the finances. Okay, you can take finances from any of the national financial institution, or you can also take finances or source can be your international source of financial institution. Okay, then we'll be talking about short term. Short term में external internal दोनों रहेंगे, and we have discussed about all these external and internal affairs in our previous video. That is trade credit, factoring, bank loan, bills payable, cash. The students who were present in yesterday's meeting, they know it, that we have already covered all these points. Internal may provision of taxation, provision for depreciation, that means all the funds which we are taking from our profits, keeping aside some of the amount of from the profits and flowing back some of the profits, or some retaining, we are retaining some earnings to get it in use or use as a finance for my next ventures. Okay, then we have discussed these external sources the same way we are moving. So we have discussed all these things. So these are some of the external and internal sources which you can go through. And after this particular chart, what he have mentioned, he have explained each and every term in this particular PDF. अपनी बुक में सब एक्सप्लेन किया. लाइक देखो सिक्योरिटी फाइनेंसिंग है तो ऑनरशिप सिक्योरिटी उसने देखो इक्विटी शेयर्स एवरीथिंग होल मटेरियल इज बीइंग गिवन टू यू. I have shared already shared with you all. Then features of it, no need to write features. It will not be asked in your paper. Advantage, disadvantage, you already know. So you need not to explain all these things. Preference share capital, types of preference. That means in your exam, you will be preparing one chart. If this question is being asked, then some explanation about all these. So most importantly, you will be preparing that chart of finances. Okay, and this is explanation. Then features, no need to write. It will not be asked. Then see this advantage, disadvantage. It is only for the understanding purpose. Then deferred share, no par stock shares. This is all explained in your share capital chapter. Then with some preferential rights, it is given. Sweat equity, you all know. Creditor that debentures, then different various types of debentures are given, that has been discussed. See this whole chapter, that is just give a thorough reading to it. Features, no need to go through. Advantages, disadvantages, it will be not be mostly because one question will be asked that explain all the various sources of finances. So you have plenty of material to write in this particular question. Okay, then loan financing is the topic. Then short-term credit, all the bankers, trade credit, internal, external, installment credit, factoring, whole material is given to you. Then expenses, commercial papers, listing, the commercial paper, public deposit. So very small explanation will be expected to write in your question. Okay, public deposits, no need to write these advantages. In cash credit, already explained yesterday. So this is whole material about. Then letter of credit can be taken as. So these are 25 pages and some 6 more pages are being attached. Let us see that pages also. Let us see that. We share my screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Next, we have term loans. This has been in term loans. हम किससे ले सकते हैं? There are various national and international financial institutions. We have already discussed that national में IFCI. No need to explain all these things when it was established and all. Only very few lines to be added while you will be writing up this national and international. One particular chart will be sufficient. One particular diagram will be sufficient enough, more than enough. Then IDBI, National Industrial Development Corporation, then State Industrial Development Corporation, UTI, then LICI, IRDBI, that Industrial Reconstruction Bank of India. From these particular institution, you can arrange for your finances. For the development of small industries, Small Industrial Development Bank of India helps you out to generate finances. Some of the explanation like State Industrial Development Investment Corporation is there to help you to get finances. So these are various sources of finance from where you can generate finances for your company or your new ventures. Then some internal sources. This page is not proper. This is like retained earnings. We had already discussed. Then flowing back of profits, depreciation, generating your provision for depreciation, that, then venture then bridge financing, that means the gap between when The date of sanctioning of the term loan or disbursement of the money from the financial institution, that gap, that is bridge finance. At that time period, whatever the money you need, that for the short time period when you need money. Okay. Then lease financing, then operating. These are separate chapters. Lease financing the chapter hai aapka. Okay, that I'll be explained. Then these are all about your chapter, that is sources of finance. You will be going through this particular chapter, and then you will be finding out these kind of questions which can be asked. This can be there, that what are the various, this is the most important being asked. This is what are the various sources of sources on which financial resources of business are classified. So what are the new financial instruments issued in the financial markets? What is the procedure that cannot be, like promotion contribution is one of the principal means of the finances of the project. So various financial. So what are the various national financial institutions of India? So basically your question which is asked from this chapter, that is what are the various sources of on which the financial resources of business are classified. So you have to go through this particular lecture. Lecture will be shared, whatever we have explained, and go through all these PDFs so that it will be easy for you, and just scrutinize that whatever the material you can write in your question. So this is all about this chapter, and the lecture will be shared with you through link in your class. Okay, so this is all about sources of finance.